A day after the NIA charge-sheeted Pathankot plotter and Pakistan-based terrorist Masood Azhar, India's representative to United Nations, Syed Akbaruddin, has a message for Pakistan. What you sow is what you'll reap. Well, NewsX was the first to report India will mount a diplomatic offensive once NIA charge-sheeted Masood Azhar, and this seems to be the first step.
If we are to bring sustainable peace to Afghanistan, groups and individuals that perpetrate violence against the people and the government of Afghanistan must be denied safe havens and sanctuaries in Afghanistan's neighborhood. Mr. President, Afghanistan's National Unity Government has India's full support for strengthening its defense capabilities to fight terrorism directed against it. We believe that the path to reconciliation in Afghanistan should be through an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned process in adherence to the internationally accepted red lines reflecting the aspirations of the people of Afghanistan. The international community needs also to send the right message, a message that it makes clear that we will neither roll over in the face of terror, nor will we allow the rollback of the achievements of the resolute people and government of Afghanistan in the last decade and a half. The connectivity that terror networks have established needs to be replaced by that of roads, trade networks, and ideas for peace and prosperity. We need to remind ourselves of what the great son of Balkh, the poet Rumi, had once said: "Every leaf that grows will tell you what you sow will bear fruit." So, if you have any sense, my friend, don't plant anything but peace. We need to address as an imperative the support that terrorist organizations like the Taliban, Haqqani Network, Daesh, Al-Qaeda and its designated affiliates such as Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, which operate entirely outside the fabric of international law, draw from their shadowy supporters outside Afghanistan.
Well, in fact, let's go across to our Foreign Affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, who's joining us with more on this. NewsX was the first, Geeta, to report that India is going to launch a massive diplomatic onslaught after the Pathankot charge sheet was filed. And it seems that Syed Akbaruddin's message to Pakistan is perhaps the first step in it.
Well, absolutely. The fact that the Indian diplomatic corps is looking at how to corner Pakistan on Masood Azhar, on Pathankot, and we see that our diplomatic mission in United Nations in New York is one way of doing that. This was the UNSC Forum for Afghanistan and the situation in Afghanistan, where Ambassador Akbaruddin not only spoke about safe havens, but also spoke about how the safe havens are provided to proscribed organizations such as the Al-Qaeda, Daesh, which is ISIS, and its affiliates in the designated proscribed organizations such as the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, hinting at the fact that if Jaish-e-Mohammed is a proscribed organization, then how can the chief be left out of the ambit of being designated? India's push at the 1267 Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee continues, and this is one way of doing that. 31st December is when the technical hold of China will lapse, and if it lapses and China doesn't do anything about it, moves, then the block will be complete and permanent. So that is what India is now working towards. These 2 weeks, India will be working towards convincing China to be on board and lift the technical hold on Masood Azhar.
Well, Geeta, also interestingly, with this message which is going out from India is not just restricted to Pakistan, is it? This is a message which is also strongly going out to China, Pakistan's all-weather friend.
Well, that's right. The all-weather friends that China and Pakistan have been for so many years doesn't seem to waver China in coming out and supporting countries that are affected by terrorism emanating from Pakistan. We have been seeing China do that for years now, supporting Pakistan on all counts. And the Pakistan card is very important for China to hold against its own interests in the AFPAC region in Afghanistan, to hold against United States of America and its growing influence, to hold against India and India's growing ties with the United States of America. And hence, if China continues to overlook the larger problem that Pakistan has been with regards to spreading terrorism and using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. How long can it last? How long can China keep convincing the world that there isn't enough evidence is something we'll have to wait and see. But yes, for now, it does not look very hopeful, or the situation does not look quite optimistic for India to hope that China will be on board, given that not so long ago, just a couple of days ago, the Chinese Foreign Ministry had come out with a statement continuing to say the same thing and state that because of lack of evidence, the technical hold will continue.
Well, Geeta, in fact, do stay on with us. Remember, at the end of it, after over 12 months, the Pathankot truth is finally out in the open, as we were just discussing. The NIA has filed a charge sheet in the case, in the Pathankot airbase attack case. JEM chief, as Geeta was just telling us, Masood Azhar has been named as the prime accused, along with 3 others as co-accused, including Azhar's brother, Rauf Asghar. Well, the barbarism didn't stop at Pathankot. Remember, dastardly attacks continued in Uri, in Kupwara, and most recently in Nagrota. So hasn't the time come to extradite Masood Azhar and make him pay for the bloodshed of our martyrs? In fact, will India make Azhar and his terror state, Pakistan, pay for their nefarious designs? Well, in fact, let's get you this big NewsX exclusive. Our editor for internal security, Nikunj Garg, has spoken to MoS of Home Kiren Rijiju.
Possible legal crackdown on Pakistan-sponsored terror activities. And to speak more about it, we have with us Minister of State for Home, Mr. Kiren Rijiju. Sir, yesterday we saw some of the biggest convictions. One completely directed at Pakistan. NIA, in a very painstaking investigation, filed a very thorough charge sheet against Pakistan's involvement. On the other hand, NIA court also convicted Yasin Bhatkal and his associates. That was the first conviction that came in the Indian Mujahideen module. Again, a Pakistan-sponsored terror. Do you think high time Pakistan gets the message right?
Yeah, it is a very important breakthrough, whether it's a conviction of Yasin Bhatkal or charge sheeting of for people who have acted in the Pathankot strike. One thing is clear, that the involvement and the role of Pakistan as a state has become very, very evident, and they cannot hide behind curtain. And the charge sheeting of 4 persons, Maulana Masood Azhar, his brother and the other 2, they all are living in Pakistan, 4 of them. So the charge sheet is against 8 persons, but 4 are already dead and 4 are alive, all in Pakistan. And now when the trial begins, everything will become much more clearer. So we have a very robust system of judiciary. So accordingly we will proceed, and the red corner notice will be given, and then the extradition process will begin. But what we feel is that since Pakistan has become incorrigible in their action, and which is very, very evident before the whole world, not only India but every country must come together to ensure that the kind of pressure, whatever is required for Pakistan to act against terror, must be put. Otherwise, this country has become a center of the breeding ground for terrorism, and that cannot be allowed to keep on happening all the time. And we are very, very clear about that whatever need is required to be done, we will do it.
Clearly, the government of India will mount more international pressure on the multilateral bodies, at least, like the UN and other places. Certainly mount more pressure to act on Pakistan.
Definitely, India has already raised its concern in United Nations, in various bilateral forums also. When I went to Bali for International Counter-Terrorism Conference, I have made it very clear in that conference also that when a country is totally involved in state sponsorship of terrorism, then we should name and shame. So it's becoming very, very clear, and I'm sure in the days to come, every member of United Nations will realize that the effect and negative impact of terrorism is not for one country, but for everybody in every country.
Mr. Rijiju, my one last question to you, and a question which is, now rankling the mind since yesterday's attack. A Russian diplomat has been shot dead in cold blood in Ankara. In such a situation, clearly we need to probably have a review of the diplomatic security here in this country also. We need to assure the diplomatic community also.
Certainly, it is a very shocking as well as very tragic that an ambassador, who is a diplomat, has been killed cold-blooded. Every country must ensure security to the members of the diplomatic community. There are threats, there are issues, but beyond that, since no details have come to us, so we will not be able to say what was the background and what was the reason exactly, but it's a tragic incident.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, in fact, let's go across to Geeta Mohan. Geeta, the government says that it is going to start taking the right steps in the right direction, but at the end of it, there's just so much that you can do with such an uncooperative neighbor.
Well, that's right. We know that Pakistan has not been cooperative. We also know that the filing of charge sheet by the NIA is really not going to do anything in Pakistan, or for that matter will ensure that Pakistan starts acting against the perpetrators of the Pathankot attacks. We are still to see Pakistan move on the Mumbai attacks, and that still hasn't happened. So all the guests and the important entities in Pakistan, such as Hafiz Saeed and Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar, are very important to Pakistan, and they'll continue to remain so. They will be protected entities of Pakistan. Having said that, for us, for India, the international community has been with India, barring one country, China, that has not supported India on terrorism. And now it is not just for India to raise the issue of terrorism on multilateral platforms, but also to ensure that in bilateral outreach to China, that China is convinced on at least siding with India when it comes to terrorism, or sending across a stern message with regards to terrorism that emanates from Pakistan, and Pakistan allowing space and safe havens to these terror organizations. And that is what India is looking at, endeavoring to ensure that the outreach continues to China, to bring the perpetrators of Mumbai, of Pathankot, and now Nagrota as well to book.
But why exactly? You need to break this down for us, Geeta. Why exactly is it so hard for the Pakistan establishment to crack down on someone like a Masood Azhar? You need to explain to us how these non-state actors have become so ingrained in the entire Pakistani political as well as military establishment that now it's hard for us to make out the differentiation between non-state actors and state actors.
Well, for Pakistan and the Pakistani establishment, when I say the establishment, it's not the civilian government that's in control, it's the Pakistani army and the ISI. They're in control, and they control Pakistan's India policy, particularly Pakistan's Kashmir policy. It's Kashmir and the way Pakistan has been trying to influence the region, influence Kashmir, is why we see terrorism being used as an instrument of state policy. Pakistani establishment will not stop till they continue to, till they see an absolute outbreak in the valley. We've been seeing this in the past so many years. Also, Pakistan uses the instability as a way to gain, and this is the establishment again, to gain funds from the international community. US has been funding and aiding Pakistan to fight terrorism in the AFPAC region. But there is evidence that the US administration also talks about how those funds are used in certain areas by the establishment to support terror networks and terrorism. And that is a worry for the international community also. It is a vicious circle and a cycle that the Pakistani establishment is right now caught in, that they need the funds to keep themselves afloat, and that can only happen if there is instability in the region. And that's the reason why we see why Pakistan uses terrorism as an instrument of state policy. Pakistan's Kashmir agenda, absolutely different from what we see and the fight we see of Pakistan establishment fighting the terror networks in the AFPAC region. It is different here. They're trying to usurp, they're trying to acquire, and they already are in possession of illegal land, of Indian land, that's Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and they're going to continue with that agenda. Until the time they have that agenda, they will require non-state actors, because as military, as formal soldiers and forces, they cannot do what the non-state actors do for the Pakistani establishment in fomenting trouble in the Valley of Kashmir.
Well, Geeta, how important is global cooperation going to be for this? At the end of it, there's a regime change which has happened in the United States. So do we expect a change in the foreign policy of US, and is that something which is going to benefit India in its fight against terror and terrorists such as Masood Azhar?
There has been a lot of international support for India when it comes to fight against terrorism. Most of the countries understand what India has been facing. Quite a few of them are suffering at the hands of ISIS themselves, emanating from West Asia. So they understand the security threat that India has been under for years, for decades now. But the change in administration in the United States of America is very critical to what can really happen and how things can pan out. As of now, it's too early to say what the Trump administration is really going to do. But we do know that Donald Trump had made it very clear that Pakistan cannot continue with the terror factories, that terrorism cannot be used as an instrument of state policy, that the people who he has appointed are very crucial and are people who are Pakistan hands. They've worked in Pakistan, they've served in Pakistan, they know Pakistan very well, but they also know the kind of the way Pakistan uses terror networks, and that's why India considers it a strength for itself to know that there is a country now with the Trump administration and the appointments that we are seeing, that with the right kind of engagement, the United States of America might try influencing, pressurizing and ensuring that Pakistan brings these perpetrators to book. Right now we're looking at an outreach where the Foreign Secretary was in the United States of America. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is in America meeting with his counterpart, the National Security Advisor to be, and these kind of engagements are ensuring that India is in a strong on a strong stead when it comes to handling Pakistan and the security scenario in the region.
Well, Geeta, in fact, do stay on with us. Let's get our viewers a reaction coming in from the spokesperson of NIA.
We have filed a detailed charge sheet in the Special NIA Court Mohali against 4 accused persons who are all Pakistani nationals, including the Chief of Jaish-e-Mohammed, Maulana Masood Azhar. After we have collected very strong evidence against them in the form of digital evidence, technical evidence, oral and documentary evidence. The planning was done in Pakistan. They were provided training, they were provided weapons, they were provided other logistical support, and then they were constantly directed and handled by the handlers to carry out attacks at a air base in India. That is sufficient evidence to prove that the whole thing was done in Pakistan.
I think adequate proof has been given.
Some political reactions which are coming in regarding this.
I think adequate proof has been given both to Pakistan as well as on international forums. Only problem in this case is that, I think, we kind of not very intelligently had called the Pakistani authorities to investigate the Pathankot episode. And therefore, they may claim to say that, it's manufactured evidence and it's not prosecutable evidence by India because their own people came in. Now, that is a weak chink in our armor. However, I think the efforts to get that gentleman back to India in any form or the other must be hotly pursued. I think it's very important that this happened. It's the only way to send a very, very, signal and very important message across the world to all terrorist organizations.
I think it's good that the charge sheet has filed, the detailed report would be submitted, and the case would start in India.
It is up to the international community to act upon it, because the NIA is also planning to issue red corner notice for this. This should put enough pressure on the United Nations to declare Azhar Masood and his terrorist organization as an international terrorist organization. And also, I would think that China would be also under pressure to now not to bail out Azhar Masood has been doing earlier, and in keeping in view his confirmed association in this terror attack, China should also help UN in declaring him a proclaimed terrorist.